Hello everyone, welcome to episode 28 of the MEE-FIT podcast. Today I am joined by Marcus, who is the newest member here at MEE-FIT, newest team member. And yeah, we're going to be chatting about some new and quite exciting advancements and new technologies that we're going to be looking to bring into our sort of service offering here at MEE-FIT. But seeing as this is your first time on the podcast, Marcus, would you be happy to just kind of briefly introduce yourself to anyone who's listening, any members or any non-members who are listening? So yeah, just a brief introduction to yourself. What's brought you here to the role at MEE-FIT?
Yeah, so my background is in sport. So I did a bachelor's in sport and exercise science at Liverpool John Moores. I then decided to go and do a master's in sport performance science down at Chester. And kind of since then, I've just been kind of like being a personal trainer in and around, trying to work in different areas as much as I can. And obviously that's what led me here. Just wanting to use that knowledge, that like science-backed, evidence-based knowledge to like further people's health and fitness.
Love it. And what's really interesting, I think, just as a side note, is that you actually applied for a role with us pre-degrees, if I remember rightly. Would that have been, 2018, 2019, I think it probably would have been?
I think right? I was in my second year of college. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, about 18, 19.
Yeah. So we were in our old gym. I presume it would have been our second member of staff. So we hired Emily, who's still with us now, gym manager. She started as a coach with us mid 2018, and then it probably would have been back end 2018, maybe 2019, when we were then looking for the next member of staff at that point. And then obviously you applied but didn't get the job at that point, maybe a little bit not enough experience, and maybe we wanted a little bit more have training and background at that point, but it's led you full circle back to us, which is pretty cool. So you've been with us for about a month now?
About a month.
Enjoying it?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Good lad. Cool. Well, today we're going to be talking about, like I said, a couple of interesting new advancements and technologies that we're looking to bring into our service here at MEE-FIT. I suppose the angle from our side of things, why we're looking to implement them, we work with a demographic of clients who are typically in their 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond 70s, and some very early into their 80s as well. So a lot of the conversation we have with those members, yes, it's fat loss, yes, it's body shape changes, but a lot of it is also health, longevity, wellness, living as healthy and as long as they can, and all the kind of discussions around that. So there's a few things that we're looking at bringing in. So the first one that I think we'll discuss is the VO2 Max kind of testing. We went and tested it out a couple of weeks ago. You put me through my paces, which was cool. But just give anyone listening a summary or an introduction into what VO2 Max is. Like, if we say the term VO2 Max, what are we referring to?
So VO2 Max, it just basically, in its basic principle, is the amount of oxygen you can consume per minute, and that is in relation to your body weight as well. So that's a relative score. Yep. So it's the amount of oxygen in milliliters per body weight per minute.
Okay. And why? What does that tell us then? What's the relevance of it?
That basically just tells us how efficient your body is utilizing oxygen. So how much it's taking in, how much it's using for then your muscles, for exercise, for just day-to-day activity. Yeah.
And you've done that obviously a lot within your degree, master's degree. How much of that you've done has been, I presume it's been mostly sport in performance related. Is that right in saying?
Yes. So lots of ramp tests for like athletic kind of performance-based testing. Yeah. So we'll like test an athlete like pre-season, then we'll test them just before the season starts, maybe during season, just depends how their schedule is. And then if we need to, we can test them at the end of the season. Just track that kind of how they've been through the season, if they're maintaining fitness or they're actually increasing, especially that pre-season period. Yeah. So, you want to see an increase in VO2 Max, or at least keep it the same.
Yeah. So I think when people think about that term, if they've heard of it, they probably think about it mostly in that sort of setting, elite, athlete setting, more competitive setting. What's your perspective on the relevance for our members? So why would someone who's, I'm not an athlete, or I'm not looking to compete in sport, or I'm not looking to run a marathon or whatever, like why would they also find value in VO2 Max?
It's a really good question, because obviously like VO2 Max are like instantly you think athletes, rugby players, football players, like team sports, but that's just one measure for them. Like that's not the be all or end all for sport. They've got many like performance based stuff that they need to focus on. When you switch it to health and kind of longevity and fitness, it's actually one of the most important numbers you want to be looking at each week or each month. You want to be keeping a score on how that is. And so, especially for longevity, like it's been said many times. I think there's a great guy you can go out and watch. I think his name's Peter Attia. Yeah. Brilliant guy. Yeah. He's spot on with it. Like it's perfect for longevity. Like if you want to track how your day-to-day movements are costing your body, because that's what it is. You are investing in yourself, and you can't just, it will change, but you can't fake it. When you go and do a VO2 max test, you can't fake it. And so it's something that you have to invest in. And if you have invested in it through your life or in the time that you've started to invest in, it will only get better. It will decrease with age, but it's keeping on top of it. And if you invest in it, you give yourself a bigger buffer before it starts to drop too low, where just even day-to-day activity becomes too much. So like, I don't know, we're talking 14, 15 milliliters for day-to-day activity. So like walking, getting up out of bed, going to the toilet, stuff like that. So, if we can give you a bigger buffer, we can actually prolong, allow this longevity. We can prolong your life.
Yeah. Nice. And I think that's probably maybe plays into the reason why the data does seem to indicate that VO2 max is probably one of the best predictors of longevity and wellness. Obviously, that's quite well documented. Why do you think that is? What is it about VO2 max that is important for people's longevity? I presume it's just it's a one measure of wellness. Like if you've got a high VO2 max, it probably means you're exercising regularly. It means you're challenging your cardiovascular system. It means you're keeping your heart and lungs healthy. Is that as simple as it is?
Yeah, like to the core of it is the cardiorespiratory system.
Yeah.
We are just testing how good that is.
Yeah.
And if you keep that VO2 max high, you are just looking after your cardiorespiratory system.
Yeah.
And obviously we know that is key for a long, healthy life.
Yeah.
If we neglect it, that score comes down. If we look after it and work on it, that score comes up, or it'll keep it a nice plateau.
Yeah. So what would you, if someone would think about doing a VO2 max test then, because obviously we're looking at VO2 max testing as a way of giving an objective figure to people for that, to say your VO2 max is X, Y, Z. But obviously you can still improve your VO2 max without knowing what your VO2 max is, and we are actively here at MEE-FIT and other gym facilities and stuff are helping people with their VO2 max, even if they don't know what that is. But why do you think it's something that you could or should test? Why do that? Why not just think, well, I'm proving it anyway? So what's the relevance in actually knowing that number, do you think?
In my personal experience with athletes, sometimes it's just accountability.
Okay.
It's just accountability. So you can't just rock up on the day and like a VO2 max test.
Yeah.
It won't lie. The score is there.
Yeah.
And so you can't just rock up on the day and go, I'm going to decide to do better on this one.
Mm-hmm.
You will always get the score that your body is capable of getting.
Yeah.
And so it's that accountability of, right, okay, if I want to feel healthy, I want to live long and healthy, I need to keep that score there, or I need to build on that score. So it gives you that accountability more than anything. It's like, like a Premier League football team going, right, okay, your VO2 max is dropped out of where we need it. Your accountability now is to work hard and get it back to where it needs to be.
Yeah. I think I agree with that completely. I think for a lot of people, when we see the rise in tech and data, and more people are becoming more and more focused on using wearables and technology. Obviously at MEE-FIT, we've got our InBody, we've got our MyZone system that a lot of our members really enjoy. You've got the Whoop band on right now. Yep. Lots of people using Fitbit. People like to see their step count. It's no different than that really, is it? I suppose lots of people will track their step count because they want to see that they're achieving their target, or if they're maintaining their consistency, and if they drop off, they know they've got that in place. So I suppose it's just another metric that we can look at to give people, like you said, an objective measure of where they're at right now, where they were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, where they could try to strive to be in the future, and then what they can do to help them move that number upwards, or at least maintain it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. It's another metric that they can look at. Obviously, your Garmin, your Whoops, your Fitbits, they'll all give you steps. They might even give you an estimate VO2 max.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as accurate as a true VO2 max test.
Yeah.
And that's where, you're going to get the expert analysis of that. We can break it down and look at what might be limiting you and where we can work on that. Also, it's perfect for setting these heart rate zones. So we can actually have an evidence-based heart rate zone for you, as well as, how you're utilizing your fats and your carbs during exercise. We can also look at that. So all round, it's a massive thing to kind of look into and invest into.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting addition. I think touching on thinking about the longevity and all that side of things, I think, again, as far as I understand, the research clearly shows us that the higher the VO2 max, the less likely people are to suffer from things like strokes, coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of the big diseases and the big mortality risk issues that people might face, it does seem to be protective against them. So yeah, we're in general summary that it could be an important metric for people. But of course, there's no reason you have to test it. Lots of people are very, very fit and healthy and well without knowing that number, but it's just another metric that people can look at, like we said. So cool. Anything else on VO2 max, or do you feel that sums it up quite nicely?
I think that sums it up quite nicely, yeah.
Cool. Well, and while we're on the topic of that bit of kit, another part of that, another angle of that kit that we can help our members with is with their resting metabolic rate. There's a capacity within the equipment to test that as well. So again, I'll go back to you with that. Give people an understanding of what a resting metabolic rate test would show us.
So a resting metabolic rate test is basic principle is we're just looking at how many calories you burn at rest. So how does your metabolism work?
Yeah.
That's basically, we're just looking deep inside and having a look at how your metabolism works.
Cool. Basically, we're measuring the number of calories that your body burns at rest just to live and to function as a human, but without incorporating activity, exercise. So it's the baseline number of calories that we're burning. And why is that important? Why would people need to know that? What's the relevance of that for them?
It's especially important for them kind of clients that want to lose weight, because then we can look at how much calories do you need, and then we can put into relation your exercise, and then we can make a deduction from there, and a healthy deduction, not just let's guesstimate this or estimate this off this equation. This is your metabolism. We are looking right into it, and we can make a judge from there. And then that's where we retest again. So as you do more exercise, as you change your diet, that metabolism will change. Yeah. And so then we can make correct adjustments to that instead of just guessing each time or making an estimate each time. We can have an accurate amount each time for you.
Nice. I think prior to bringing in this capacity here, we would always use an algorithm for this. Yeah. So we would use, what are the names? Is it Harris Benedict?
Harris Benedict,
is one, and then there's a few others, isn't there? But we've got something on our website, like a plugin on our website that's got all that built into it. So you put in your age, your gender, your height, and your weight. I think they're the four main metrics that you then put into an algorithm, basically into an equation, and it gives you a metabolic rate estimate. And that's what we've always based it off. But the problem with that is not everybody is the same. And not everybody who's the same height, the same weight, the same age is going to have the exact same metabolic rate. There is going to be individual variations on that in terms of genetics, in terms of what that person's been doing recently, whether they've lost weight or gained weight, and what their metabolism's doing in respect to that. So I suppose this, again, is just another way of us having a little bit more objectivity around that number, rather than just saying, oh, your estimated metabolic rate is 2,000. Well, we can say, well, actually, this is the angle I think of it from. You know, we have a lot of clients here who will say, I must have a slow metabolism. I'm not losing weight, or I'm not I'm barely eating and I'm not, that's always a part of any weight loss discussion is understanding that completely. And the way I view it is if we can say to people, okay, well, this is your predicted metabolic rate. This is what the Harris-Benedict formula would predict your metabolic rate would be based on those metrics. But actually, this is what it's showing as, and that might be higher or lower. And then again, like you said, it just gives us a little bit more clarity as to what's going on and what adjustments we can make to someone's diet and their calorie intake, etc. Would that be...
Yeah, that's fair? Exactly what it is. Yeah. It's just giving you that level of accuracy, so and it's very sensitive. It's very sensitive to change, and like you said, it comes back to not every one single person is the same, and it's very sensitive to that. So it will be able to tell the differences. You could have two people come in at the same weight, same height, it will still show a difference. Yeah. Instead of you just give them the same equation and they both end up coming out with the same calorie deficit that they need to be in. Whereas we can go, right now, okay, based on this, because they might have two completely different diets, two completely different lifestyles, and that will affect your RMR.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of summarizes the RMR side of it. I think it's, like you said, it's another objective measure for people to understand about their body. Everyone's individual, everyone's got individual characteristics, genetics, etc. So I think having that ability to understand exactly what your body is doing and how that then relates to your calorie needs and how you can set up your diet for muscle building, for weight loss purposes, for body recomposition purposes, if people are not wanting to lose weight, but they're wanting to just maintain weight whilst improving their tone and their shape, then we've got all this information that we can give them and say, right, this is what your body's exactly doing, so you can be a bit more specific with them, which will be really, really interesting. The final additional piece of tech that we're currently looking at that I wanted to discuss quickly is also the grip dynamometer. Yeah, that we're looking to bring in through InBody. So what's your understanding of that as to what that would show?
Yeah, so that kind of gives you a figure in kilograms of your grip strength, basically. Yeah. And it's another strong predictor of like health and longevity, but it's one of those that you test it, and we want to see either an increase or a plateau. As you age, it will drop, but the higher we can give it, the bigger buffer we have. Yeah. So again, it's like day-to-day activities of picking things up, moving about. We're giving you a bigger buffer, so when you age, you get actually more of a buffer zone that's going to add to that length of life, that longevity.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, I think we've always looked at grip strength as something that we can improve anyway through the training that we do. Doing deadlifts, RDLs, anything where you're gripping a weight, you are going to be improving your grip strength. But again, we go back to that same point that people like numbers, people like having objective measures of things. Like we could say to someone, "Oh, test your grip by just hanging off a bar and seeing how long you can hang for." Do you know what I mean? Like there's other ways to test grip, but it doesn't quite give us the same accuracy and level of consistency as what a specific test would do. And just to reiterate on what you said there, again, I think the data clearly shows us again that positive link between grip strength and longevity. Like you said, it seems to be quite a strong relationship. And I think people get the wrong end of the stick with that, if they train grip strength specifically, they're going to live longer. I don't think it works like that. I think we're viewing grip strength as a marker and as a measure of overall functionality.
Yes.
Would we say? If someone's 80 years old and they've got a very high grip strength, you could imagine that they're going to be fitter, more mobile, more active, with less comorbidities than someone who's the same age and who's got a really, really poor grip strength, because that would indicate that they're not doing those day-to-day things and they're living a much more sedentary lifestyle and they're not doing as many of those physical tasks as what the other person is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the VO2 Max. So like, again, you can't kind of just come in and wing it.
Yeah.
You have got to have invested into this for, either your lifetime or a few years or a few months. You've got to have invested in this to see a positive change. And but you can't just come in and wing it and go, right, I'm healthy and I'm fit. Some people might already be at that level. They've just never tested before. But if you want to see positive changes, you've really got to invest into yourself. Yeah. And like with the grip strength, like you said, you can't just, if you're just working on your grip strength all the time, you're neglecting other parts of your body.
Yeah.
And so there, you go and do a VO2 max test, your cardiorespiratory system's not functioning where it should be.
So it's a nice all round, lots of different ways that we can think, okay, here's, what have we got? We're thinking there, VO2 max, resting metabolic rate, body comp using the in-body machine, grip strength. There's all these different measures and markers of people's objective numbers and the data doesn't lie. I think that's something that we'd always go back to. The data shows us a true, honest reflection of where we're at right now, and we can utilize that information to give people guidance and advice that's a little bit more, like we said, tailored to them. And just touching on what you said there about the investment in your health, I agree completely. But one thing I just want to highlight, I did a talk here last year on aging, summer last year, I think. Yeah. Summer last year, we did one of our summit events, and I did a talk on aging, and found a really, really interesting study. We'll see if we can dig it out for the video actually. And it had a picture on it, and it was all about aging and exercise and the positive influence that has. And the point that this paper really very nicely made with this diagram that really accurately showed it was, it's never too late to improve, and people might get to a certain age and think, oh, well, I've not done it for this long, so why start now? But what this paper really positively showed was actually, no matter your age, whether you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, even your 80s, if you start doing more exercise, your body will respond to that. It will get stronger. Your cardiovascular system can improve. Your grip strength can improve. So you're never too late to start was the point that was trying to make. And I think it really summarized it really, really nicely. Because I think we see that here all the time. People almost think that they've left it too late, or why bother starting now because I've not done it for 50, 60, 70 years, so it's too late. But that's not the message we would try and give. The message we try and give is it's never too late. You can always improve. You just have to make that decision to think, okay, this is now something I'm going to start to, like you said, prioritize and invest time and energy into.
That's all it is. It's an investment. And, from what I've been taught at university, you can build muscle, you can work on your cardiorespiratory system just as well as you would do in your 20s.
Yeah.
It's just you've got to give your body a stimulus to make a change.
So that's sort of covered most of the additions that we're looking to make and the different technologies that we're looking to bring in. So I suppose the question that people might ask then is, why test these things? Like why not just, because we know we want to improve our VO2 max anyway.
Yeah.
People want to get fitter. They know they want to get more healthy and stronger, so their grip strength will improve, etc. So why do you think it would be valuable for people to, and we just want to be clear here that there's no pressure from our end, whether people do or don't, that's up to them. There's no reason that you have to do this. However, there might be some benefits to doing it. So what would some of those benefits be? What do you think to that?
Yeah, so tracking any sort of data, you kind of, whether you do it consciously or not, you set yourself a goal. You're like, right, I want to be there. Whether it's like, you'll get your Garmin on, it'll go, oh, you're at this. Let's focus on getting this. It's already setting you a goal, so then it's a goal in your mind. So again, it's that kind of, okay, that's personalized to me. I know exactly my calories that I need to intake from my RMR or the score that I got on my VO2 max. I've been told this, and this is the analysis of my test. You instantly go, right, well, I want to do better next time. Instantly. Whether you're an athlete or you're somebody in your 80s that are just looking to stay healthy, you will just set yourself that target of, I want to get better, or do you know what? I really want to keep that score there.
Yeah.
And that the value of that is so important, because that's what will drive you then. That'll drive you to want to keep that. And then because the tests are so individualized to you, we can support you through that. And you want to make any changes to it, we're there to support you. We'll do the analysis of the test, we'll do a retest, see where you're at, and where we can make changes from that. So the importance of the kind of like motivational force of testing, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
I agree completely, because I think we see time and time again that a lot of people, and not everybody is in this, and if anyone's listening and thinks this doesn't sound like it's for me at all, like fine, no problem at all. But we do see that a lot of people respond very well to having a more clear focus and a very clearly defined outcome. Because I think for a lot of people, if they just think, I just want to get fitter, that can be really, I don't know, it's very broad and it doesn't give enough focus. And I think it can be hard for people to sort of stick with. Whereas when you know someone's got a more specific target in that I want to achieve a particular 5K time, or I want to do a particular deadlift, or I'd love to do a press up, or do you know what I mean? Just anything that gives them a real direction and focus, it tends to, in our experience, lead to better outcomes than more overview goals, if you're with me. So I think where the testing comes in is to give people that objective measure that they can then work towards and have a bit more of a specific focus around, okay, my VO2 max showed it was 30. And I presume one thing we didn't talk about with that is I'm presuming there is some, what would be the right way to put it? Some standards to work towards potentially, or some guidelines for, I'm presuming, I don't know, athletes and then recreational athletes, everyday people.
Yeah, you get to all the way up to elite.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of foundation on that. What would that be for my own interest? Like in terms of, let's say an everyday person who just wants to be fit and well, like what would they be aiming for, or what would be a fair score for them to look to achieve?
Oh, it really depends on your age. So it'll put into perspective your age, your sex. So there will be subcategories for them. Yeah. But I don't know, if you're around, you're kind of like 40s males, maybe 30 to 40. Yeah. Same with females, you're maybe 25 to 35.
Got you.
And then it'll just be worked out from there. It depends on where you're at and what your kind of optimal is. But again, it's a very individualized score. So what is optimal for you might not be optimal for someone else. Yeah. So we can work that out and we can work on that together.
Yeah, cool. So we can give people some guidance, can't we, in terms of standardized measures to aim for and what the data sort of shows us as to, well, if you can hit this, I know that's common with the grip strength. There's some particular numbers that people can work towards, which seems to be protective against, you know what I mean? When it falls below a certain level, this is when we're at risk of sarcopenia and osteoporosis and all these other things. Yeah. So, things like that I think are quite nice, aren't they? I think people will respond well to that.
It's just, it's knowing when you come too low, those risks. And then if we can bring it back up, again, like I was saying, it's that buffer. Yeah. If we give ourselves a bigger buffer, if something does go wrong, for example, you take a fall, you have to take leave. You have to, or your work's busy. You've got such a buffer that when you do come back, you've not dropped too low.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective on that, actually. Yeah. So you're giving yourself more wiggle room that if something does happen, at least you've got more of a base to fall from. Whereas if you're pretty low anyway, and then some, and that's similar to when we think about it from a perspective of things like falls. Like I was speaking to a lady earlier today, actually, who's been having some falls off the back of illness and stuff, and she's been ill but been unfit in the lead up to the illness. So you're kind of in a vulnerable position. Whereas if you're someone who's very fit and healthy, and funnily enough, actually, it reminds me of a testimonial we filmed with Penny Hearn, actually. I'll name drop her in. She had some pretty bad time a year or so ago with a few falls and injuries and stuff.
But as bad as a fall can get.
Yeah, broke. You get this right.
Both ankles, both wrists, and spiralized her shin.
Yeah, pretty bad. Yeah. All kind of happened at the same time, so she was in a bad way. But one of the things she mentioned on the testimonial video was how she feels, and also the medical professionals around her felt, that because she'd got herself into a good position with her health and her strength and her fitness and her mobility, it set her up well for success within the healing process and the recovery process.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if she'd have gone into that in a really low fitness state, poor strength, poor core strength, poor functionality, mobility, the recovery process would have been a hell of a lot harder. So
exactly, it comes back to that investing in yourself, because life is unpredictable and it's unforgiving at times. But if you invest in yourself, like you would do your money, if you invest in yourself, if an unfortunate event does occur, you've given yourself that buffer to then go, right, okay, recovery is going to be strong, and you're back to it. And also, if you're testing, you know where you're at. So then that's another goal. Where was I? Let's get back there.
So I think we've covered off a lot of interesting stuff there. So that's been really, really good to chat with you a bit more about that. So like we've said, we're looking at bringing all of these things into our service offering here at MEE-FIT. So yeah, thank you very much, Marcus, for your time and coming into the podcast studio / coffee room, which has been good fun. And just for people's awareness on this, obviously, bringing Marcus into the team has enabled us to explore this more quickly, I suppose. It's been on my mind for a while as to, where can we look to bring in additional elements to what we do? Because I think what I'm seeing within the industry as a whole, the fitness industry, is the more focus on this health, wellness, recovery, longevity. And, we bandy around these words a lot, but I do think they are becoming more and more relevant. And I think with our demographic and our population, who we look to work with and who is most responsive of our service here, I do think these things are going to be really, really beneficial for them to have as an option of something that they can look to bring into their fitness journey to personalize it that little bit more and make it that little bit more tailored to them. So yeah, any kind of final thoughts from yourself on anything that we've discussed today? Any points about any of these things that you thought was worth mentioning?
Yeah, I just say, definitely your VO2 Max and your grip strength and your RMR, that they are worthy investments. They're worthy investments into yourself. And like we've said, they're some of the key, so cardiorespiratory, strength is some of the key predictors of a long, healthy, fit life. And so if you're investing into them and wanting to invest into them, do it, because it's only going to add to your buff. It's only going to add to your it's like a piggy bank almost. You're adding to that piggy bank of, you've given yourself a safety net for your future self. And so why not invest in it?
We talk about that. It's very interesting, actually. We've done posts and talked about this, haven't we? Like financial pension pot we've talked about here. So many people are so focused on their financial pension. And of course, that's so important to have that financial stability when we age and know that when we retire or whatever, that we're able to be comfortable. But one thing that we'll always remind people of within that is that your physical pension is just as important, because we see countless people come to us here who are financially sound, retired or semi-retired or still working, but they're in a good position from that, but they're not in a position to enjoy that freedom or enjoy that financial security as much as they would, because their body's a wreck. They're struggling with a lot of aches and pains. They haven't got energy. They've got poor sleep. They've got low motivation. You know what I mean? Like they're not able to live life to the full, although they've got the financial backing to do that, but they haven't got the physical backing to do that or the energy to do it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's something that we talk about a lot and seems to resonate a lot. So yes, it's a good addition bringing you in, Marcus. You've got a clear similarity in the way that we talk and the things that we talk about, which is really cool. So lovely. I think we're going to finish up there, everyone. So thank you very much for listening. If you are a MEE-FIT member and you're interested in any of these services that we're looking to bring in, obviously we haven't got timescale just yet because we are waiting on a few things, but it is something that we're going to be bringing in over the next, I'm going to say, couple of weeks / month or so. If you're a non-MEE-FIT member and are interested in this, we are going to offer these things to non-members as well. So if you're interested in having any of these tests done, and we're going to put together a little sort of, I suppose, bundle of testing metrics that we can sort of deliver to people to give them a really well-rounded understanding of their health and their wellness and these different metrics that we spoke about. So yes, thank you very much for watching, everybody. And we'll see you in episode 29.